Hey guys, doing a bit of a different and more relaxed video here today, so if you hear my dog in the background, just ignore him. Let me preface by saying thank you for 10,000 subscribers. Words can't explain how grateful I am for that. I decided to do a little Q&A as well as some channel announcements at the end, so without further ado, let's get started. Our Cognizant, am I saying that right? 6929 said, "Who's your least favorite great nomad?" This one was pretty easy for me to answer. It's Ogedei, the son and successor of Chinggis Khan. For starters, Chinggis hand-picked him, his third-born son, to prevent civil war between his other sons, as Ogedei was much more level-headed than them. That's a great trait to have, but Ogedei took the largest empire in history at that time and just drank it away. By the end of his reign, he didn't really care about ruling, only about alcohol. This weak central authority in turn led the Mongol Empire to disintegrate into four separate, much smaller and sometimes infighting empires. The Mongol Empire could have been so much more if not for Ogedei. I don't hate him, but his reign was disappointing to say the least. My good friend and other YouTube channel that you should follow, Xenophonia, asks, "Are you doing a face reveal anytime soon?" Yes, I was actually thinking about doing it for 10,000, but thought I might build up some suspense by telling you I will do a face reveal at 50,000 subscribers. So make sure you tell your friends, and your mom, if you want to see what I look like under the mask of Marcus Aurelius. Davey Worse asks, "What made you choose Nepal as an area of study? It's very underappreciated." It is quite underappreciated, but one segment of Nepalese history is not. And that is, of course, the Gurkha. After hearing some stories about the crazy feats of these soldiers in the modern era, I decided to see what made them so badass. I then stumbled upon the Kingdom of Gorkha, their premier badass Prithvinarayan Shaha, and eventually the unification of Nepal, which I decided was an amazing story that hasn't really been told in English. So I told it. Bo Shruzi asks, "What are your favorite place and era?" Without a doubt for me, it's the golden age of the Georgian Empire, starting with King David IV and ending with Queen Rusudan. As a lover of Caucasus history, this region has never been unified completely under one of their own. It's only happened twice, in fact. This time period and during the short-lived modern state, Transcaucasia, which ended very badly. For me, the Georgian court is just so appealing, somewhere between Roman and Persian customs along with their own. The armies were so unique, featuring steppe nomads and French knights alongside Armenians and Russians. Another appealing thing is Queen Tamar the Great, possibly the most powerful queen in history. Overall, the Crusade's real impact was felt most in Georgia, distracting the Turks so the furthest east of the Christians could carve out their own empire. NickMatt994, one of my loyal YouTube channel members and Patreon members, asked 3 questions that can all be tied together. First, which was the first country whose history you found yourself engrossed in? Second, what about that history kept you digging for more and more answers? Third, do you still have some lingering questions about that country's past that remain unanswered after your research? So the first country, or should I say city-states, whose history I got obsessed with was, like many Western-born history nerds, ancient Greece. The movie 300 is actually one of my first memories, which is probably terrible for my mental health, and from there, it was all uphill to learn more. When the History Channel, actually made history shows, I watched all of the ones about ancient Greece. To answer the second question, I needed more answers because there's so many different chapters to that history. Bronze Age Mycenae, who I have my theories about being at least some part of the Sea Peoples, the mysterious Minoans. Then you got all those rapey and weird gods and their accompanying myths up on Mount Olympus, along with amazing philosophers and scientists. Then you get the Persian Wars, which, how did these backwater mountain-dwelling city-states beat the world's first superpower? I don't know. And then, of course, Athens and their stark contrast of Sparta and their eventual wars. Then some kid from Macedon messes around and just casually conquers all of Persia. Then the aftermath left in the Diadochi Wars, which is my personal favorite part of Greek history. A few Greeks ruling over lands as far as India, carving out their own states. And then, of course, the Romans roll up and basically just become half Greek because the Greeks are just that cool. Then it goes 180 when the Byzantines prove more Greek than Roman. To answer your third question, I do still have a few lingering thoughts that I'm not sure will ever be answered. Did Archimedes really invent all those weapons? Was Alexander the Great just the face to the genius of his generals who split up his empire? How democratic was the Athenian Republic truly? Because I have my doubts. How strong were the Spartans? Or were they just flexing? How influenced were the Greeks by the Phoenicians besides adopting their script for their alphabet? Jordan Kaiser 8435 asks, what would you be doing with your time if YouTube didn't exist? Oh my gosh, I have no idea. Since I was a kid, YouTube has basically been my whole life, but I guess I might try my hand at being a professor or some sort of teacher. I'd also probably spend a lot more time outside instead of crouching over my computer like a frickin' sloth. Overall, I wouldn't be who I am today without the knowledge I've gained from YouTube. Larry Wave, one of my most loyal subscribers, asked, where are you from? As you can tell by my terrible pronunciations, I'm from America. I was born in what was one of the original 13 colonies, to narrow it down. He also asks, what is your educational background? I'm slightly scared to answer this question, but I will anyway. I actually never graduated high school, but failed math class so many times I dropped out and got my GED. I then went to college for 2 years and even tutored a few history classes during that time. But I never received a degree, as I took too many history classes. Are you seeing a trend here? While I met some great history teachers and professors, I really have a problem with the American educational system. Why should I have to learn about things that I don't want to, if I'm paying for it? So I use my historical knowledge earned from my college days to start this channel, which I still say is my own form of college, as my analytics say my videos are played in college classrooms. And guess what? I never had any student loans to pay off, so I think I'm winning. Noahi 2590 asks, have you ever considered doing any videos on the pre-colonial kingdoms of sub-Saharan Africa? Yeah, I do have a few ideas for the future. I'd like to do a series on the Imri and the dynasty of Madagascar, although that's not pre-colonial, but still. I also have some interest in the Songhai Empire and Mali. But most of my interest lies in East Africa, in the form of Great Zimbabwe and the Ajuran Sultanate. I just wish there were more historical sources, because I'm not as good as an archaeologist as I am a historian. Hamid Gulsher asked, if you could have a discussion with one ruler from history, who would it be? I really had to think about this one, but I would like to speak with King Richard III. I made a video about him already, but I really feel like he was given a bad hand to remember him by. I don't think he was evil, and I'm not even sure if he killed his nephews. I think he was scared and alone, and the Tudors literally painted him in a bad light to justify themselves. They even repainted his portraits to make him look evil. I feel bad for him, honestly. The propaganda leveled against him is just too numerous to accept at all. Untold History Animations, who is one of my favorite YouTubers, seriously, check this guy out, he is funny. He asks, do you actually believe in Stoicism? I do, yes. The philosophy has great lessons in it. I'm naturally pretty reserved and usually maintain my composure. I also go after my goals, so I'd say I'm really a born Stoic. But I would say lately, I've been more into Buddhism than Stoicism. Zach BT2KY asks, have you traveled much? What are your favorite places and where do you hope to go? To start with, I've unfortunately never been outside the USA. I've been to Florida a few times and all down the East Coast, but that's really it. My favorite location I've been to is probably Gettysburg. The battlefield is a lot larger than you can even picture. As for places I want to go, I'd like to take a tour of the Caucasus. I really want to go to London and just see all of England, really. And that's pretty much it for my bucket list. This name in another language has 2 questions. What was your favorite video to make, and what video are you looking forward to making the most? So I can't pick just one video as my favorite, but I have narrowed it down to 3 in no particular order. The Anglo-Nepalese War video, the Accidental Crusader State, Armenian Cilicia video, and the Top and Shweti video. As for the video I'm most looking forward to, I'd have to say my remake video for King David IV of Georgia. Or should I say, 2 videos. Junaid V2Z asked 3 questions. How did your interest in history develop? How much success did you initially think your channel would have? And how many subscribers do you think you'll have a year from now? Well, for starters, my dad was a history nerd, and he kinda made me watch 300, so I was doomed from the start. To answer the second question, I honestly thought I would have a lot more success. Then I realized it's not about the quantity, but quality, and clickbait. A year from now, I want to say I'll have somewhere around 1,700 subscribers, hopefully. Liam E. Coping asks, Kings and Generals or History Marsh? That's a good question. Kings and Generals, though, without a doubt. Better topics, and the narrator is better. But honestly, if Baz Battles comes back, I'd pick him in a heartbeat. Kaiser of Pax Christian Princey 5644 asks, what are your religious beliefs? So, I was raised Roman Catholic, but I never really enjoyed going to church. I would say I'm an atheist, but let's be real here. Any historian can say that history is a religion. So that's mine. Chief in Staff General of a Post 7253 asks, what is the difference between astrology and astronomy without using Google? Alright, yeah, I'm never living this one down. So, if you didn't know, I made a video about Ulugh Beg, one of the greatest astronomers in history. I thought astronomy and astrology were interchangeable. It turns out they are not. Can you blame me with all the basic girls going around talking about the stars and their horoscopes all day? So, without Google, astrology is reading the stars from horoscopes, and it's the more mystical side of that study, while astronomy is the study of the stars by tracking their movements, distance to the Earth, distance to the Sun, etc., etc. I really hope I got that right. Thank you again for roasting me, I really deserve it. Penguin Fingers J7J asks, favorite book, show, and film. My favorite book, or should I say books, is the Ranger's Apprentice series. It's something like Lord of the Rings, but with a stealth archer build. My favorite show was BoJack Horseman. Just so many emotional levels behind the stupid jokes and bipedal animals. My favorite movie is The Last Samurai. Although it's not very accurate, it certainly captures an essence of what that changing period of Japanese history was like. Jen Hamza Al-Seed asks, your state is going through a tumultuous period, with divisions in the army, lack of confidence in leadership, social unrest, and larger enemies forming a coalition to attack and divide your land. Which 3 figures from history do you bring back to help you? That's a great question. I really had to think about this one. So to get those other powers away, I'm going to use Napoleon, as he is notorious for defeating coalition after coalition. To reorganize my state and cash flow, I'm going to pick up Emperor Justinian the Great. And finally, to unite everybody, I'm going to get Tamar the Great, a friendly face to these other more fiery men. Roman Ollie has 3 questions. If you were a different ethnicity, what would you be? I don't know. I like Georgian history, so I guess Georgian. He also asks, if you can make videos about only one region, what would it be? The Caucasus, without a doubt. Endless stories on the edge of empires. And finally he asks, what is your favorite ethnicity in terms of females? I kinda don't want to answer this, but the Irish, I guess? Anyone with freckles, really. Abdul Aziz Zafar C comes at me with 5 great questions. First, my top 3 favorite rulers in history. Number 1, David the Builder of Georgia. Number 2, Amir Abdul Qadir of Algeria. And number 3, Shah Rukh Mirza of the Timurid Empire. Second, he asks what my top 3 generals are. Number 1, Khalid ibn Walid, without a doubt. Number 2, Hannibal Barca. Number 3, Jan Žižka. Third, he asked if I have a time machine that works 3 times, what 3 places do I go? Well, it's not really the places for me, it's the people. Number 1, I would want to go back and follow Jesus around. Number 2, I would go back and follow Alexander the Great. And number 3, I would go follow Julius Caesar around. Fourth, he asked, do I believe in any conspiracies? I'm a born skeptic, but I do have a few in mind that keep me pondering. JFK for sure. And then, did the Eastern Roman Empire cause the fall of the West with backdoor deals with barbarians? And then, was Alexander the Great poisoned? For me, conspiracies are just that. Most in history can't be proven. Fifth, he asks, what is one controversial opinion that I have? Eating kiwis with the skin on is the tastiest way to eat them. That's a fact, but in terms of history, I'd say that people were living in the Americas way before we think. Archaeological discoveries are made basically every decade, just pushing the year back further and further. And yeah, I do think the Polynesians made it to the Americas. I hope you guys learned something about me, but with the Q&A done, I wanted to talk about and get your opinion on something. How would you guys feel about a podcast? Like, I invite someone on, we just talk about whatever I feel like. I'm probably gonna make a few just to see how it performs, and simply because it's much easier to make than scripting a whole video. Let me know some topics you'd like to see. Finally, I want to build up some hype for this next year. As you may know, I tend to do series on this channel. Here are 3 that I plan to complete by the end of 2025. The Kingdom of Armenian Cilicia. Just finished the princedom of the same state not long ago. The subscriber voted Kingdom of Bohemia. Czech history is just so interesting, lying in the middle of Europe and playing host to 2 very different empires in the north and south in a very short time, as well as the Holy Roman one. And finally, the completion of the series I know my most loyal Georgian subscribers have been waiting for, the aforementioned Empire of Georgia. Thank you guys for 10,000 subscribers again. And remember, if you'd like to support this Stoic historian, feel free to do so on Patreon for as little as $1 a month. And join Derek Clark, Savak Leo Nazarian, Taj Guilford, Nickmate Voician, Lazarus Dikos, Dave J, and Dalinar. Or become a YouTube channel member, like Derek Clark again, Donald Vincent. What? Why? Nickmate Voician again, and GOD. Thank you guys for supporting the channel. I really appreciate it.